Before the class, I might have to change them. I guess spring has sprung, huh? Pretty nice. Okay, we'll bow in. Ready? Up. 1, 2, 3. Salute. Okay, first exercise. Feet shoulder width. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Okay? To the side. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Okay? Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right. 2, 3. To your left. 2, 3. Center. Inhale. Exhale. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right. To your left. Center. Inhale. Exhale. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right. To your left. Center. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, one more time. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right. To your left. Center. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, hands in your waist. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Center. Cross. Knees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Center. Hands on your waist. Neck turning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Tilt to the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Center. Down. 1, 2, 3. Reverse. 1, 2, 3. Center. Hands up. Pull in. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, spread your feet. Turn your shoulders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, and stop. Okay, turn. Stretch it out. Switch. 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 Straighten the front knee. Switch. 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 Center. shake it out. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, hands and waist. Shoulder roll. And reverse. And okay, press, release, exhale, inhale. And stop. Hands up. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, wrists. Reverse. And sana. Okay, palms down. Bigger circle. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Okay, shake it out. Shift side to side. Okay, lift up. And Sana. Okay, let's go. Insert needle. Switch. And Sana. Okay, shake it out. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, silk grilling. Switch. And Sana. Open and close. Switch. circular movements. Okay, lower hoop. Shoulder height. Elbows down. Lower and down. Extend. Okay, deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, diagonal flying. Switch. Cloud hands. Okay, palms down. Carry tiger to the mountain. Center, infinity sign. Form the fist. Okay. Palms together, strum the lute. Turn, draw the bow. Extend through the back. Okay, raise the hand. Deep breathing. Inhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, so we'll go through the sequence. Okay, ready? Feet parallel. Preparation. Okay, so we'll go through the long form. Then we'll work on some pieces or go over some question and answers maybe. All right, ready? Preparation. Okay, deep breathing. Okay, so we got about another half hour class, so we can go over anything you want. This could be question and answer, could be just some dialogue, or could be like John, you haven't been here for a couple of weeks because people get busy or whatever reason. So we haven't had a question from you for a while. Okay. 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 In the beginning? Okay. Yeah, yeah, okay. But John's question is something that he's been doing since the beginning of time. And the thing is that he still doesn't feel comfortable with that initial transition from the front to the 90-degree turn going toward your right side. So actually, coincidentally, we've been working on that in the last 2 weeks. Last Saturday we had, it was a little of a interruption, but prior to that, we've been working on the postures. So we were saying for 2021, we would work the individual postures to try and improve on them because each posture is actually one unit. And one unit of posture is really a mini sequence. So, so the form is made up of 37 postures. So each one of those postures is a name. It's defined by its name. That's what names are for. Names are for you as identifiers. Like I look at Mara, I recognize her through recognition that. So through association recognition, her name applies to her. If she changes her name, then you know. So that's kind of what it is. So, anyways, postures are named, and the name of the posture is generally the end of the final position. So those postures are linked together to create the form, and it's used kind of as an identifier. So that specific group of movements becomes grasp the sparrow's tail or single whip, and all of these postures are structures. But when you're first learning Tai Chi, you're not really, I call it a triple load. You try to figure out what the names of the postures are. You memorize them, but you don't really know what they are. And then coordination. You have to build a certain amount of understanding on a physical level. That's what coordination is. And then sequential memory. So sequential memory, coordination, and posturing have to come together as an understanding. So in the beginning, we started off and then we move away from there. That's why a lot of times people don't pick up on what happens, right initially day one, because you moved on. You moved on to another part of the form. So bypassing that section without a true understanding, because if you spent a year on that, you probably wouldn't be here right now. You would say that I'm not learning anything. So learning form is trying to just memorize a sequence, get through that concept of the sequence, which is kind of an active meditation eventually. Then when you get to the next stage of understanding what comes down to really basics, right, left, forward, backward, and central equilibrium. Those 5 things, they're kind of a concept, an idea. You have to take and understand how that works within the postures, within the transition, within your directional motion, because that's the mapping of the form. So if we think of the mapping of the form, that's really how it's laid out on the floor, on the ground. That's your groundwork. That's taking you directionally. And then you have to take a look at your body, and your body has posturing and has direction. So the direction typically that I talk about is front, right, and left. Okay, so this is where the center, the frontal direction, that's the way you face, that's your nose, your center line, and the 2 corners comes into play. So between that corner is a 90-degree space. You really don't have to sort of look outside of that space because all our postures are going to work within the realm of that 90 degrees. And then every time you shift, take you to a new 90-degree corner. So essentially, if you're in an octagon, you have 8 sides that you're actually going toward, right? So eight sides, but you actually have 2 different 45s in each. But it's just a reference. So you really doesn't matter which one of those 8 sides you go into, it's still that 90-degree pie that we're talking about. So when we start off, this is just sort of rough. We go like this, and the first movement is step up. And we find that center line position. Now here's the forward. The forward goes with horizontal as a press. Now when we sit back, we're going to turn 90 degrees with 45-degree increments. So I pivot my toe, and now my toe is pointing 45 degrees. And we lean forward. Okay. Now if you left everything in position and just went there, you would feel like your center now is in that corner. You feel that? Now if I shift my weight, now isolating and controlling each component of the body, right? I flip my elbow, I stroke down, and I turn my torso. Okay, turning the torso is a lot more than just turning your body, but you actually relax the hip and turn your waist. So now we're here. Now we move the foot in, and we move it out. We move the hand in, and we move the hand up. Now you're on your right side, and we do a press. Okay. So that's what we learned day one, how to get from that, but you didn't pick up all the subtleties and nuances, right? So now we're going to do that again. Now we're going to understand that right and left, forward and back, becomes part of all of those transitions. Now on the mapping, I've turned this way. But on the physical positioning, my body also does the same angular positioning. So you have to combine those two dimensions of movement and ideas of how the body turns in the reference of 90 degrees and 45. Then your mapping of the direction is the lower 45, 90 based on your feet or your hip or your knee. So the thing is, there's no coincidence that when your toe is pointing in a direction, the front foot, that's the direction you're headed. You know, same thing when we talk about walking, we're heading in a direction. Once your foot is facing that direction, that's the way you're going. So if I turn like this, I'm going over here. I turn like this, I'm going over here. So you have to set up one foot at a time to take in a direction. So if you just take that little concept, when we're here forward and back, and I kick this toe out, I'm like this. Now both feet are parallel. They're in the 45-degree corner. My torso has this new center. I have still two 45-degree corners there because I still have this, and I have this. Now if I turn my body, I have you see the reference point? I go like this, now I'm square. But then when I go like this, my hand goes like this. Here's my right, and here's my left. I go to center, and here's your forward lean. So right, left, center, forward, and backward becomes much more important. The idea, because the forward and backward, right, left, center involves your legs, it involves your spine, it involves your shoulders, it involves your arms. Now your arms are going into a 45-degree direction. So, you know, the 45-degree and 90-degree becomes, you know, sort of systemic in the whole body, because we only look at one kind of a plane while we're transitioning. But actually, because movements are three-dimensional and it's multi-dimensional, when you combine all these coordinates and components, it gets to be pretty complex, right? Pretty complicated. So that complicated stuff has to be digested here. Like we talked about the other day, your mind has to come in with an empty vessel, and you take that information in, and you take the concept as a principle and idea. Then you have to house that information without really a true understanding of what we're talking about, because we understand it on a sort of intellectual level, because we know what 45 is, we know what 90 is, but we don't actually understand what a transition is, because a transition is taking you through the space. Because we have really not a lot of understanding about that space and that spatial awareness, which ties into proprioception, the body doesn't know. So we have to go through this process, and we start off together, right? We start off here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's your left. There's your right. I mean, a lot more than we're just talking about happened there, but then we're here, square. And you press forward. There's your front. There's your back. There's your turn. Here's your lean. There's your new front. We drop the elbow. We stroke down. And it kind of looks like a posture already. Then we go to this position. Now we're in this position. We have this position transitionally many times, stepping up and going through this pass-through. 1, 2. Because we have to go through center before we move forward. You can't go from here to here. So you have to go through center, shift your weight, so your weight is over that supporting foot, and then you move your front foot. Now we're moving to the right, and we're moving to the left. And then the hand goes forward, and you press. And then it leads you to the rest of the 4 movements of grasp the sparrow's tail. So when I mention here that you move forward, turn to your right, 1, 2. It's not just your hands moving to the right and left. It's doing that. But if you want the movement to be compatible with direction, then you have to move your hand and move your torso and then reset. So all of that happens in your spine, the lower lumbar area, where people have so many problems, because movement is a motor skill. If you don't program your musculature to move those pieces, and that's your skeleton, then it doesn't move, right? It'll move based on the things that it's learned over the decades and decades of your life. Maybe when you bend, it'll move. When you breathe, you might move. When you twist, doing something that's sort of tangible, you would move simply because you've learned that over time, just doing it. But now you're relearning how to move in a sort of systematic way. Now, that's programming movements in order. So the synaptic firing has to happen in a specific order to create the specific motions. But it's not just one thing. It's numerous things throughout the body. So it's, maybe, I don't know how many, but there's thousands and thousands of things happening simultaneously in order to create a simple motion. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, every joint has an ability to connect and disconnect. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to move. So your skeletal structure has to accommodate the movement based on what it needs to do to compensate. So that compensation is what keeps you in a erect position, in a leaning position, in a suspended position, all that compensation is the adaptation of the skeletal structure, creating those alignments, those releasing. And so the hips, the lower lumbar area, the sternum, your neck, everything moves. Every part of your body that has a joint moves. But can you move it because you want it to move? That's called directing the movement. So the mind directs the movement because of it. The mind, and it can only direct it based on what it knows. Because if you don't feed something here, it doesn't feed it here. And when it does it here, unless this tells this that this is what's happening, the feedback, there's no action. Yeah. So why? Because your spine has not been, controlled over the, numerous decades of your life, that you didn't know that could happen. So that becomes what I call kind of disconnected or dysfunctional. And dysfunction doesn't mean it's gone bad. It just doesn't know. So knowing, the body has to build intelligence. So what it doesn't know, most of the time when you go through life, you think you're learning how to do something. You're just doing it because you're replicating something that you saw. Probably 99% of people that walked in here to learn Tai Chi learn through watching. And then you start to listen. You're listening now to concepts and principles, and how can we improve on that? So when we get to here and we go forward, now here's forward, but do we just want to go forward? We don't want to just go forward because our knee's over here. So if we want to go forward, we have to go forward and then over this knee in a direction that's almost in that, well, it is in that 45-degree corner. Now when we change our position and we roll back to slant backwards, and then we turn back again. So this is right, this is left, this is right, and this is left forward. Because when you blend right, left, center, forward, and backward, you made dimensional changes. Nothing is flat. We don't move like that. That's how grasp the sparrow's tail would look like if we were flat, right? You have dimension. So you have rising, falling, turning, and then you're turning like that. That's the manipulation of skeletal structure. That's pretty complicated stuff, even though on a physical level it looks like nothing. But what happened up here? That's that's the amazing thing. We don't even know what happened up there, but you did it. So the reason, I talk about the benefits of this is for brain plasticity, creating new actions, and the Tai Chi form doesn't change sequentially, it changes execution-wise. So every movement, this isn't just Tai Chi, it's Kung Fu. Actually martial arts, that's how we learn, that's how we evolve. The depth of knowledge is this. The superficial knowledge is the sequence. So you can get a sequence anywhere. You can go on YouTube, you can buy a book, you can read all about sequence. But the principles, the concept, and the theories are the challenge, and that's the deeper learning, So, so when we're here, grasp the sparrow's tail, we will start off, the form would be 1, 2. This is called beginning style left to forward position. When you sit back and we make this transition to here, to here, to here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's beginning style right. That leads into grasp the sparrow's tail. And then you would hook your wrist and turn to the corner, and you would move, shift, open, and you're here. So that's how we learn it. That's how we have to go through the process. It's no different from day one when you were taught it. It's just that all that stuff that happened in there was missed. Because what you copied were the hands. You didn't copy the rest of the stuff that's going on. So what happens as you evolve, because these actions become innate. So when you start off the form like this, and we're going 1, 2, we're moving each piece just like we do fundamentals and warm-ups. But ultimately, when you do this form, everything starts to blend, and then you start to do this, and then your hand movements become this. But that's not, how could you learn that? It's impossible to learn that until your body has programmed the neurons in your musculature to be able to blend what we call the opening and closing, the substantial and insubstantial, the relaxation of the body, create the motion. So the conflict in motion is tension. Without releasing, you can't create a motion. So another term they use is feng song. Whole body releases the tension. Now it doesn't release the tension in the state that you go unconscious and collapse. It releases the tension so you have the ability to move. You can't move unless you relax. It goes from zero to the action and then back and forth. It's not completely zero, but it's a state in which you can begin to create the action, and you regulate that What do you regulate? The intensity of the muscle contractions and how much of your musculature is involved. So it varies, and that's actually part of control and skill. You know, when we move our hands and we're moving them, it's not that the hands are not creating any action. This is a physical thing. This is a gentle thing because the action is shared. It's shared by different components. I call it summation of components. The more you move, the less effort or less intensity in each individual part. So that has to be more better. It must be better for your body, and it's has more efficiency because you're not working this arm to death. You have two arms. Why not use two of them? Well, you can't always use two. It depends on the task, right? So, but when we move and it's soft, why does it have to be soft? Because on a functional side, you never really, like, if you're going to grab a pot and you don't know really how much strength to use, and you go like that. If you don't close your hand at the right time, you hit the handle and the pot flies off the stove. So you have to need a certain amount of sensitivity, and then your body, you have the intelligence that here told your body, well, don't grab it too forcefully. Use sensitivity. So in application, it's the same thing. So if I borrowed, why movements have to be soft in application is because this is a block. What's a block? A block is keep everything away from you so it doesn't come into your space. So if he throws a punch, I can go, that's a block because he didn't get to me. But that's not what we try to do in Tai Chi. In Tai Chi, we try to not be there, right? You avoid. That's the first line of defense, is to avoid. So why do we turn? And we turn. But then that's not control of your opponent. So if he punches and I move here and I put my hand here, then I've actually created a control factor where I know where he is and I can actually intercept it. Now, when he does that and I blend the movements, there's a softness of how I would interact with his arm. That becomes a feeling, sensitivity, and timing. So you say, well, how can you do that? You're not going to, someone throws a punch, even if he throws it fast, you're going to move based on how your body is going to respond to that. So it's a training tool to build a form. So that sensitivity that you build, not necessarily applying it like that, but applies to things that happen every day when you get into your car. Are you bumping into the sides of your car and injuring, getting all bruised, getting into your car and banging your head? Well, you're not doing that because you know. But then if you were to bang your head, you kind of, your body's a little more flexible because you're not going in like, I got to get into the car and, if even though the top of the car's there, I'll just go through it. That's kind of brute force. So it's a mentality, of how you think things should happen as an action. So in Tai Chi, it's passive, it's subtle, it's gentle, and it's continuous. So we build that continuity through a process of, little bits. You learn a little here, a little there, a little here, then you blend it together and it becomes something else. Sometimes I talk about a recipe, right? You get all these ingredients, but how do you combine them? When you combine them, then it has a different flavor. So when you do your movements, the same thing. When I'm like this, when I'm like this, when I'm like this. So the dimensional changes become something that your body starts to recognize. Now, when I went like this, and I go like this, and like this, your joints combine and separate and disconnect. They call that sometimes in terms, it's like called an internal adjustment. When you're an internal, internal is just beyond the surface. Your ligaments, your tendons, your musculature, your brain, all has to be tied together to get these actions to happen. And it starts day one when you're here. 1, sink the elbow, relax the shoulder, and so there's a blend of how the body starts to tie together. Now, everything I talk about geometry is in these actions because we're dealing with the skeletal structure. So you have to go from point A to point B in a specific way but your body has to know how to do it. And it becomes more aware and sensitive as we go. Now we should turn all the way to that corner and then reset. So when you go one way, the other side goes the other way, and then we have to adjust. There's your slant. There's your shift. That's almost like that beginning. That happens in cloud hands. So as we start to build an understanding, the body learns to build the response and the compensation for center of mass. So when we're here, we have to pass through here before getting to there. When we're here, we have to relax the shoulder to get to here before we get to here. When I start to go down here, my back started lifting. And the hand goes up, and it goes up, but it goes up through here and then turns to here. You see? So from here to here is like this to this. So you learn your pattern directional movement through your fundamental motions in the warm-ups. Your body will become programmed to know that this is the way you have to go. Like a high block goes to here. And then you pass through center and you come down low and you go to here. So your body knows that this over time because everything passes through your center. If my hands are out here and something comes in here, I have to do this. But that's too isolated. So I have to sink my elbow and I have to turn like this. Now I'm closing my center. This would be big and pretty obvious. This would be a little bit more integrated but more efficient. Right? Now if I go like this is the other side of it. I go from here to this, right? And then here. But what happens to this? This has to go like this, then it goes down, and then it goes like this. It's going that way. So when you have right, left, center, the integration of the right and left become a relationship. The relationship of the right and left is taking the two hemispheres of your body and working and merging together that they have a blend of compatibility so that they work together. So when you grab an arm and you pull, you're having the two hands work. But you're not pulling with your arm, you're turning the body. Right? You can't pull something like this on a horizontal level. You have to pull it down before you turn your waist. So that's a mechanical advantage, right? So example of that is like if you had your arm completely horizontal to the side, like that, yeah. So if I'm going to pull you, no, just put your, yeah. This is pretty hard to pull, right? Because he's resisting, right? But if I go like this, yeah, it's different because I changed his direction of force, right? So the same flies here. If I'm pulling like this and then I go like this, that's different. So he resisted here, but actually so he's resisting here. Press, right? Lift. Then I let it go. That dissipates force. So there's different ways of letting that force. If I was pressing and he pressed, I want to let it go. I drop my elbow and it goes up. But it didn't cost anything to, if I went like this, then I just do this. And I'm here. And I'm here. So that's why we do this. So that's functionality, but that's why we have to twist and turn our body. All right, that's it. Ready, bow. That's forward.